Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today I will show it information about Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina, country situated in the western Balkan Peninsula of Europe. The larger region of Bosnia occupies the northern and central parts of the country, and Herzegovina occupies the south and southwest. These historical regions do not correspond with the two autonomous political entities that were established by the internationally brokered Dayton Accords of 1995, the Republika Srpska, Bosnian Serb Republic, located in the north and east, and the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, occupying the western and central areas. The capital of the country is Sarajevo. Important regional cities include Mostar and Banja Luka. The land has often felt the influences of stronger regional powers that have vied for control over it, and these influences have helped to create Bosnia and Herzegovina's characteristically rich ethnic and religious mix. Islam, Orthodox Christianity, and Roman Catholicism are all present, with the three faiths generally corresponding to three major ethnic groups, Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats, respectively. This multi-ethnic population, as well as the country's historical and geographic position between Serbia and Croatia, has long made Bosnia and Herzegovina vulnerable to nationalist territorial aspirations. Ruled by the Ottoman Empire from the 15th century, the region came under the control of Austria-Hungary in 1878 and subsequently played a key role in the outbreak of World War I. In 1918 it was incorporated into the newly created Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, where it had no formal status of its own. After World War II it became a constituent republic of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. Following the disintegration of that state in 1991, the majority of the population of Bosnia and Herzegovina voted for independence in a 1992 referendum. Much of the country's Serb population, however, opposed independence and boycotted the referendum. War soon consumed the region, as ethnic nationalists within Bosnia and Herzegovina, with the support of Serbia and Croatia in some cases, tried to take control of territories they claimed as their own. Horrific ethnic cleansing campaigns between 1992 and the end of 1995 killed thousands and violently displaced more than 2 million people in much of Bosnia and Herzegovina. International intervention into the Bosnian conflict led finally to a peace agreement, the Dayton Accords, in late 1995. The Dayton Agreement ended the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but it also established the country as a fragile, highly decentralized, and ethnically divided state in which an international civilian representative remains authorized to impose legislation and to remove domestic officials in order to protect the peace. Although the vast majority of citizens continue to desire sustainable peace, they hold to different ideas about the best configuration of the state, and some even question its future existence. The roughly triangular-shaped Bosnia and Herzegovina is bordered on the north, west, and south by Croatia, on the east by Serbia, on the southeast by Montenegro, and on the southwest by the Adriatic Sea along a narrow extension of the country. Bosnia and Herzegovina has a largely mountainous terrain. The Dinaric Alps dominate the western border with Croatia, and numerous ranges, including the Kozara, Vlasic, Pljesevica, Grmek, Sinker, and Radusa, run through the country, generally in a northwest-southeast direction. The highest peak, reaching 7,828 feet, 2,386 meters, is Maglic, near the border with Montenegro. In the south and southwest is the Karst, a region of arid limestone plateaus that contain caves, potholes, and underground drainage. The uplands there are often bare and denuded, the result of deforestation and thin soils, but, between the ridges, depressions known as polges are covered with alluvial soil that is suitable for agriculture. Elevations of more than 6,000 feet, 1,800 meters, are common, and the plateaus descend abruptly toward the Adriatic Sea. The coastline, limited to a length of 12 miles 20 kilometers along the Adriatic Sea, is bounded on both sides by Croatia and contains no natural harbors. In central Bosnia the rocks and soils are less vulnerable to erosion, and the terrain there is characterized by rugged but green and often forested plateaus. In the north, narrow lowlands extend along the Sava River and its tributaries. Geologic fault lines are widespread in the mountainous areas. In 1969, an earthquake destroyed 70% of the buildings in Banja Luka. The principal rivers are the Sava, a tributary of the Danube that forms the northern boundary with Croatia, the Bosna, Vrbas, and Una, which flow north and empty into the Sava, the Dina, which flows north, forms part of the eastern boundary with Serbia, and is also a tributary of the Sava, and the Neretva, which flows from the southeast but assumes a sharp southwestern flow through the karst region, continues through Croatia, and empties into the Adriatic Sea. Rivers in the karst flow largely underground. Numerous glacial lakes dot the landscape. Bosnia and Herzegovina is also rich in natural springs, many of which are tapped for bottled mineral water or for popular thermal health spas. Although situated close to the Mediterranean Sea, Bosnia and Herzegovina is largely cut off from its climatic influence by the Dinaric Alps. The weather in the Bosnia region resembles that of the southern Austrian highlands, generally mild, though apt to be bitterly cold in winter. In Banja Luka, the coldest month is January, with an average temperature of about 32 degrees Fahrenheit 0 degrees Celsius, and the warmest month is July, which averages about 72 degrees Fahrenheit 22 degrees Celsius. During January and February, Banja Luka receives the least amount of precipitation, and in May and June it experiences the heaviest rainfall. Herzegovina has more affinity to the Croatian region of Dalmatia, which can be oppressively hot in summer. In Mostar, situated along the Neretva River, the coldest month is January, averaging about 42 degrees Fahrenheit 6 degrees Celsius, and the warmest month is July, averaging about 78 degrees Fahrenheit 26 degrees Celsius. Mostar experiences a relatively dry season from June to September. The remainder of the year is wet, with the heaviest precipitation between October and January. About 2/5 of the country is forested with pine, beech, and oak. Fruits are common, among them are grapes, apples, pears, and especially plums. The country's rich and varied wildlife includes bears, wolves, wild pigs, wildcats, chamois, goat-like animals, otters, foxes, badgers, and falcons. Bosnia and Herzegovina is home to members of numerous ethnic groups. The three largest are the Bosniaks, the Serbs, and the Croats. Continuing efforts by the international community to promote the return of persons forcibly displaced during the Bosnian conflict, 1992–95, to their original homes, as well as domestic political sensitivities, blocked the conduct of a census well into the 21st century. Nevertheless, it is estimated that Bosniaks constitute more than 2/5, Serbs roughly 1/3, and Croats less than 1/5 of the population. The three groups share the same South Slav heritage. The major cultural difference between them is that of religious origin or affiliation, a difference that may be explained in part by the legacy of the Ottoman Empire, which allowed autonomous religious communities to coexist under its rule. Indeed, Serb and Croat referred first to the people of two South Slav tribes and then mainly to the people of Serbia and Croatia until the 19th century, when nationalist movements in the Balkans encouraged Bosnians practicing Serbian Orthodoxy to be labeled as Serbs and Bosnians practicing Roman Catholicism to be labeled as Croats. The idea of a broader Serb or Croat nation was appealing to regional leaders who coveted Bosnia and Herzegovina's territory. Serb or Croat nationalism also appealed to educated Bosnians, who were often excluded from high state positions by Bosnia and Herzegovina's imperial rulers. The Ottoman Empire was succeeded by Austria-Hungary, which took control in 1878. A sense of nationalism later developed among Bosnian Muslims as well. In the 20th century, Muslim came to be used as an ethnic, not only religious, identifier. It was replaced in the 1990s by Bosniak. The association of religion with national identity has meant that religious identity has remained important. The role of religion within all three populations was elevated by the demise of communism, the revival of nationalism in the wake of Yugoslav disintegration, and the violence of the war. Nevertheless, attendance at church and mosque services continues to be low. The mother tongue of the vast majority is Serbo-Croatian, a term used to describe Collectively, the mutually intelligible languages are now known as Serbian, Croatian, or Bosnian, depending on the speaker's ethnic and political affiliation. There are some minor regional variations in pronunciation and vocabulary, but all variations spoken within Bosnia and Herzegovina are more similar to one another than they are to, for example, the speech of Belgrade, Serbia, or Zagreb, Croatia. A Latin and a Cyrillic alphabet exist, and both have been taught in schools and used in the press, but the rise of nationalism in the 1990s prompted a Serb alignment with Cyrillic and a Croat and Bosniak alignment with the Latin alphabet. More than one-half of the population is rural. The arid plateaus in the southern region are less populated than the more hospitable central and northern zones. Villages are of variable size. Houses are either of an old, small, steep-roofed variety or of a larger, multi-storied, modern type. An urban-rural divide is a significant part of Bosnian culture, with urbanites tending to view villagers as primitives and villagers often being defensive about this view. Young villagers are frequently anxious to move to town. During the 1960s and 70s, the urban population almost doubled. This shift particularly affected the economic and industrial centers of Sarajevo, Banja Luka, Zenica, Tuzla, and Mostar, around which sprawling suburbs of apartment blocks were built. Traditional settlement patterns were disrupted by the post-independence war, with the population of many cities swelled by refugees. When it was a part of the Yugoslav Federation, Bosnia and Herzegovina had one of the lowest death rates and among the highest live birth rates of Yugoslavia's republics, and its natural rate of increase in population was high in comparison with most of them. By the early 21st century, however, the birth rate had declined, the death rate had climbed, and the natural rate of increase had fallen below zero. The 1992-95 war had radically altered the demographic situation. Of the hundreds of thousands of people displaced during the war, a significant portion of them emigrated. As a republic of the Yugoslav Federation, Bosnia and Herzegovina adhered to the unique economic system known as socialist self-management. In this system, business enterprises, banks, administration, social services, hospitals, and other working bodies were intended to be run by elected workers' councils, which in turn elected the management boards of the bodies. In practice, the level of workers' control was extremely variable from enterprise to enterprise, since ordinary workers often were not motivated to participate except in matters such as hiring, firing, and benefits, and in any case lacked the necessary time and information to make business decisions. In the 1980s, Yugoslavia's large foreign debt and rising inflation lowered the standard of living in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In the period immediately following the 1991 war in Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina's official economy collapsed. Huge increases in the price of oil, falling imports and exports, hyperinflation, shortages of food and medicine, insolvent banks, and unpaid pensions all resulted in a swelling black market, or informal economy. In addition, the 1992-95 war, see Bosnian conflict, caused widespread destruction. International financial organizations were heavily involved in the post-war reconstruction of the economy. As a result, inflation fell, exports increased and were diversified, and the gross domestic product, GDP, experienced growth, at least until a global financial crisis began in 2008. However, privatization was contentious and remains incomplete. Moreover, the number of workers in the informal sector and the unemployment rate both remain stubbornly high. Remittances from Bosnians working abroad continue to be a significant source of income. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a significant agricultural region, with some one-third of its land under cultivation or in pasture. The most fertile soils are in the north, along the Sava River Valley. In hillier areas, land is employed for both cultivation and grazing. Principal crops include corn, maize, potatoes, wheat, plums, cabbages, and apples. In Herzegovina and in the more sheltered areas of Bosnia, tobacco is grown. Sheep are the major livestock, although cattle and pigs are raised, and apiculture is practiced. With about 2/5 of the country forested, timber, as well as furniture and other wood products, have been important exports. fishing potential is increasingly exploited. Bosnia and Herzegovina has reserves of iron ore around Banja Luka and in the Kozara Mountains, bauxite near Mostar, and lignite and bituminous coal in the regions around Sarajevo, Zenica, Tuzla, and the Kozara Mountains. Zinc, mercury, and manganese are present in smaller quantities. Forests of pine, beech, and oak provide a source of timber. The country possesses considerable hydroelectric potential. There are several hydroelectric and thermal power plants. Manufacturing historically represented a large part of Bosnia and Herzegovina's economy. In the wake of the war, however, the country struggled to reinvigorate industrial production. Metal manufactures, iron and steel, sawn wood and wood products, food, and textiles are among the products produced in various parts of the country. The Dayton Accords created a largely autonomous central bank, which has sole authority over monetary policy and the issuing of currency. The national currency, the convertible marka, convertibilna marka, KM, is pegged to the euro. After the war, fiscal consolidation was strong, and most banks are now privately owned. Foreign direct investment was substantial in the early 21st century, but foreign investors faced serious obstacles, including a complex legal and regulatory framework, less than transparent business procedures, and a weak judiciary. Bosnia and Herzegovina's largest trading partners are Croatia, Serbia, Italy, and Germany. The service sector accounts for more than half of the country's GDP, with retail trade and restaurants being an important component. There have been efforts to revive tourism by attracting visitors to the country's rich cultural heritage sites, gorgeous mountains, and aquamarine rivers. The largest portion of the labor force is engaged in services, followed respectively by manufacturing and agriculture. Labor unions have been largely fragmented and weak in the post-war economy. Bosnia and Herzegovina's autonomous entities, the Republika Srpska, Bosnian Serb Republic, and the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, have different tax policies. The individual income tax rate in both entities is relatively low. Other taxes include corporate tax, property tax, and value-added tax. The major obstacle to transportation in Bosnia and Herzegovina has always been the mountainous topography. In addition, much of the transportation infrastructure was destroyed in the post-independence war. The railway system, begun under Austro-Hungarian rule, 1878 to 1918, connects Sarajevo with major towns to the north and with Zagreb, Croatia, and Belgrade, Serbia. Another line runs south from Sarajevo to Mostar and on to Ploče on Croatia's Adriatic coast. However, few lines are direct, and as a result roads of variable quality have in many cases been the preferred means of passenger and freight transportation. Scheduled air services connect Sarajevo with other Balkan capitals, such as Belgrade and Zagreb, as well as with other European and international destinations. Although Bosnia and Herzegovina has lagged behind its neighbors with regard to citizens' use of telecommunications, the number of cellular phone subscribers increased dramatically during the first decade of the 21st century. During the same period, the number of internet users grew exponentially. Diverse European and Turkish influences are felt in the cultural life of Bosnia and Herzegovina. There are considerable variations between traditional and modern and between rural and urban culture as well. Family ties are strong, and friendship and neighborhood networks are well developed. Great value is placed on hospitality, spontaneity, and the gifts of storytelling and wit. Summer activities include strolling on town corza, promenades, and throughout the year popular meeting places are kafane, traditional coffeehouses, and kafesi, modern cafe bars. Bosnian cuisine is a matter of pride and displays its Turkish influence in stuffed vegetables, coffee, and sweet cakes of the baklava type, as well as in the national dish of cevapi or cevapcici. These small rolls of seasoned ground meat, typically a mixture of beef and lamb, are grilled and usually served in a bread pocket. The plums that grow in the country are often made into thick jam or slivovitz, a popular brandy. During the 1970s Sarajevo, with a less repressive atmosphere than that of the Yugoslav capital of Belgrade, now in Serbia, gave rise to a dissident rock and roll culture. The most popular band of the time, Bijelo Dugme, White Button, enjoyed a large following throughout the country. The city has produced other popular musical groups and artists, such as Zabranjino Puzenji, Divulj Jagode, Elvis J. Kurtovic, and Kravina Jabuka. International artists toured the country during the 1992-95 war in the service of humanitarian causes, and they continue to do so, adding to a strong domestic tradition of musical and cultural performance. Folk songs remain popular and well-known. Sarajevo enjoys an active literary culture as well, with a number of publishing houses releasing contemporary and classic writing from the region. Popular writers include Emila Bucerovic, Samezdan Memedinovic, Mesa Selimovic, and Ferudin Zilkic. Ivo Andrić, born in Dolac, Bosnia, received the 1961 Nobel Prize for Literature. Andric's novels, such as Na Driny Kaprija, 1945, The Bridge on the Dina, are concerned with the history of Bosnia. In the Yugoslav era, Sarajevo was an important film center, gaining international renown through the work of director Amir Kusturica, whose films depict the private face of Yugoslavia's history. His Shikas Liesi Dali Bell. Do you remember Dali Bell? Won the Golden Lion Award at the 1981 Venice Film Festival. Danis Tanovic won an Oscar in 2002 for his film No Man's Land, about human relationships during the 1992-95 war. Bosnians, like many Europeans, share a passion for football, soccer. The country fields dozens of professional and semi-professional teams, and virtually no Bosnian village lacks a field and a few players willing to populate it. The civil war of the 1990s caused the Bosnian Football League to break into three comparatively weak divisions along ethnic lines, with Bosniak, Serb, and Croat teams that rarely played against anyone not of their own allegiance. In 2000, the Croat and Bosniak divisions agreed to interethnic play, joined by the Serb League in 2002. During the Yugoslav era, Bosnia and Herzegovina had powerful basketball players, and the sport is still widely popular. However, as with football, ethnic division plagued the sport in the 1990s. During the period of Yugoslav rule, Bosnian athletes competed in many Olympic Games, and the Winter Games of 1984 were held in Sarajevo. Sarajevo's ski runs built for the Games were later used as firing ranges for Serb and Yugoslav army artillery during the Civil War. Newly independent Bosnia and Herzegovina formed a National Olympic Committee in 1992, which the International Olympic Committee recognized in 1993. The country's first Olympic appearance came in 1992 at Barcelona, Spain. Despite the ongoing war, an interethnic team also participated in the 1994 Winter Games at Lillehammer, nor athletes from the country have continued to participate in subsequent Winter and Summer Games. Bosnia and Herzegovina features large national parks, Sajevska, Kozara, and Una, and nature reserves. Mountains and open spaces offer hiking, skiing, and hunting. Hunting is a popular pastime, and assorted hunting societies include thousands of members. The land is drained by the Sava, Dina, and Neretva rivers and their tributaries. Though the area possesses a variety of natural resources and an important history of industrial production, it remains one of the poorest regions of the former Yugoslavia. Bosnia and Herzegovina is an emerging republic with two legislative houses. A tripartite presidency is nominally the head of state. A representative of the international community functions as the final authority in this capacity. The head of government is the Prime Minister, chairman of the Council of Ministers. Habitation long predates the era of Roman rule, during which much of the country was included in the province of Dalmatia. Slav settlement began in the 6th century CE. For the next several centuries, parts of the region were ruled by Croats, Serbs, the Byzantine Empire, and Hungary. In the Middle Ages, Bosnia enjoyed periods of independence, and for a brief time in the late 14th century it was the most powerful state in the Western Balkans. The Ottoman Empire conquered most of Bosnia in the mid-15th century. It took over the remainder of Bosnia as well as Herzegovina, a land then known as Hum, soon thereafter. During the 16th to 18th centuries the area was an important outpost of the Ottoman Turks, who were often at war with Hungary, the Empire of the Austrian Habsburgs, and Venice. During this period much of the population converted to Islam. At the Congress of Berlin after the Russo-Turkish War of 1877–78, Bosnia and Herzegovina were assigned to Austria-Hungary, which annexed the combined territories in 1908. Growing Serbian and South Slav nationalism contributed to the 1914 assassination of the Austrian Archduke Francis Ferdinand at Sarajevo by a Bosnian Serb, an event that precipitated World War I. After the war the area became part of the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, renamed Yugoslavia in 1929. Following World War II, Bosnia and Herzegovina became a republic of Communist Yugoslavia. With the collapse of communist regimes in Eastern Europe, Bosnia and Herzegovina declared its independence in 1992. The country's Serb population objected, however, and violent conflict ensued among Bosnian Serbs, Bosnian Croats, and Bosniaks. See Bosnian conflict. The Dayton Peace Accords in 1995 established a loosely federated government divided between the Bosniak-Croat Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina and the Republika Srpska, Bosnian Serb Republic. By the early 21st century much of the infrastructure damaged during the conflict had been reconstructed, but ethnic tensions remained. Thanks for watching.